Diddy was running some kind of Epstein-type deal where he was filming everybody, right?
That's the rumors, yeah. I don't know that there's any proof or anything other than that.
The thing is, like, we're getting the rumors from the internet.
He can get jokes, and we're all going to tell jokes.
Yeah.
I'm not pressing charges.
Well, not only that, you're not the guy who's out there, like, calling the New York Times, hey, you know what I heard about Diddy?
By the way, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're just like, it's there. I mean, it's not just there.
That party, you know, Diddy's sons, you know, getting into an altercation with Ray J.
Nobody's gonna press Ray J.
Okay.
It's not gonna happen. I mean, anyone can come and try to press Ray, but it's not gonna happen. So
Okay.
Let's get right to it. Too many big names out here pretending they ain't know what was going down at Diddy's parties. And the streets ain't buying it no more. Ever since them Cassie tapes leaked and lawsuits started piling up, it's like everybody in Hollywood suddenly caught amnesia. But a few voices have been calling it out. People like Joe Rogan, who went on his podcast and said straight up, ain't no way these folks didn't know what Diddy was into. And Katt Williams, you already know he ain't holding back. Katt been telling us for years that these Hollywood parties be a front for something way darker. And now it's all bubbling to the surface. Who was really there? Who looked away and who helped cover it up? One of the names that keeps getting dragged back into the spotlight is Ray J. Yeah, Brandy's little brother. Mr. I Hit It First. But behind all the memes and viral moments, Ray J been moving funny for years. And now folks starting to question his whole come up. He sat down with Vlad TV recently and tried to play innocent, act like he ain't know nothing about Diddy's lifestyle. But the way he danced around the questions, that body language, it screamed like somebody holding back to protect themselves. Even Vlad seemed confused, like, bro, just say it. But Ray J was nervous. He knew what not to say on camera. What made it worse? That story from Diddy's own ex-bodyguard, Gene Deal, who said Diddy and Ray J almost came to blows at a Halloween party over something serious, some kind of private altercation involving Diddy's sons. Gene didn't drop all the details, but the way he told it, it wasn't no small argument. And when security had to separate grown men in costumes, yeah, that ain't your average party drama. There's something else there, something personal. And with Gene being one of the few people who's been around long enough to see it all, that moment carries weight. And here's the part that got folks really side-eyeing Ray J. Some say Diddy helped clean up his image after Whitney Houston died. You remember that? Ray J was suddenly everywhere, on the red carpet, on talk shows, all polished up. But there were rumors flying that Ray was with Whitney in her final days, and that some of what went down in that hotel room wasn't as innocent as the press made it seem. So now people asking, was Diddy the one who stepped in and pulled strings to keep Ray J protected? And if so, what did Ray J owe him in return? Let's not forget, Ray J's own viral family moment resurfaced right around the same time as the Cassie footage. That clip of him going off, yelling in front of his kids and the mother of his child, was wild. And while the internet laughed it off, some folks started pointing out the parallel. Two men getting exposed for toxic, controlling behavior in the same week, both with ties to Hollywood's elite and both acting like they're above consequences. It's not a coincidence, it's a pattern. But Ray J ain't the only one that got people talking. J. Rule stepped into the mess too, and honestly, it didn't help his case. He went on Piers Morgan and tried to downplay everything, said people need to wait for the facts, tried to defend Diddy without defending him. It was awkward, forced, like he was trying to protect somebody, maybe even himself. And the craziest part? Gene Deal came back again with more tea. He claimed Ja Rule had his own shady moment in a hotel room, one that allegedly involved Diddy and was covered up fast. No names dropped officially, but the implication? Heavy. Now add in the fact that Gene said a lot of these hotel situations weren't about partying, they were about control, about collecting dirt, about making sure these celebrities couldn't speak out without having their own skeletons exposed. And when you look at the way certain folks keep popping up in these allegations, Ray J, J. Rule, even artists like French Montana, you start realizing this wasn't just a freaky party scene. This was a system, a loop, a way to pull people in, trap them, and silence them. And the wildest thing? Most of these dudes were acting like it was normal, like this was just how Hollywood works. But now that the light's getting shined on it, now everybody want to clean their hands. But real ones know if you was in those rooms, if you stayed quiet, if you helped the system run smooth, you part of the problem. Ain't no innocent bystanders when it's that deep.
You ain't gotta worry, because all you gotta do is tell the truth. The truth is crazy enough, you ain't got to make up no shit. I'm gonna say something to you that sounds like a made it up, and it's really in the news.
We've all been at Diddy parties, but then there is the after party, the freak-offs. Have you ever attended any of those?
Absolutely.
You have?
Oh, man.
Okay.
Everybody.
Okay.
100 people.
100 people.
Everybody's each other.
Right.
Amber, like my best friend, Amber Rose. And we doing a podcast together. We doing a bunch of shit together, right? We relate to the same thing. And we both was like, yo, if there was an actual freak off, we would have both been invited. We ain't never got invited to no shit like that. That shit ain't true.
Now let's keep it moving, because this rabbit hole only gets darker. One name that's got people whispering heavy is Ashton Kutcher. Now at first glance, most folks wouldn't throw him in the mix with Diddy. He's the tech guy, the goofy actor, the punked dude, right? But behind that Hollywood smile, Ashton been running in elite circles for a long time. VIP parties, closed-door events, and according to insiders, some of those rooms were shared with Diddy. Folks say Ashton had access to that same ecosystem, the one where nobody talks, phones stay locked, and the energy shifts real quick after midnight. But what really made the Ashton thing disturbing was that old resurfaced story about Dave Chase. Yup, the girl who played Samara in The Ring. She was 14 years old when she allegedly got invited to a Diddy-affiliated party where Ashton was present. And even though details are murky, the age difference alone got people sick. There were whispers about how the invite came through, who was there, who looked the other way. And now that Diddy's empire is under a microscope, that whole situation is being re-examined with fresh suspicion. Some folks are even looking sideways at Ashton's connection to Brittany Murphy. They dated briefly back in the day, and while that might have seemed like regular Hollywood romance, Brittany's death was one of the strangest and most tragic in entertainment history. Her final months were full of paranoia, isolation, and erratic behavior. Her husband died soon after in eerily similar fashion. Now people are asking, was she another person who saw too much, got too close to the wrong circle? And did Ashton know more than he ever let on? He stayed unusually quiet about her over the years, never fully addressed the weirdness, never dug deeper publicly. That silence got folks questioning everything. And it don't stop there. Ashton was real close with Danny Masterson, who just got sentenced to 30 years for assault. Ashton wrote a letter of support for him after the conviction. That raised red flags. Like, why would you defend a man just found guilty of some of the worst crimes imaginable? Unless y'all shared more than just a set. Maybe you shared secrets. Maybe you shared rooms. Maybe you know exactly what's been going down in those back channels of fame. And protecting one person means protecting the whole system. So when Ashton pops up in the background of this Diddy drama, it ain't random. It's the same pattern we see with a lot of these celebrities. Quiet when it counts, loud when it's safe. And the internet don't forget. Every picture, every video, every quote, it's all being replayed under a new light. And now fans are going back through old episodes of Punk'd, old interviews, old party clips looking for signs. And what they're finding? Little hints that maybe Ashton wasn't just an innocent prankster. Maybe he knew way more than he ever let on. Let's shift over to someone who's neck deep in this thing. Stevie J, R&B producer, reality star, longtime affiliate of Bad Boy. This man's name been in the mix since the 90s. He was there during Diddy's rise. He was around Cassie. He was spotted during the Miami raid on Diddy's properties. And every time Diddy catches heat, guess who's in the background defending him? Stevie J, always on Instagram, always on live stream, always trying to say, that ain't the man I know. But come on, if anyone knows the real Diddy, it's Stevie. They go way back. Too far back to not have seen something. And when the Cassie footage dropped, Stevie was one of the first to downplay it. He said people were twisting the narrative. But how do you twist a man dragging a woman down a hallway on camera? That ain't no rumor. That's reality. And instead of condemning it, Stevie played PR. That's why folks believe he's one of the ones who helped keep Diddy's secrets quiet. Not out of loyalty, but out of self-preservation. Because when the feds start knocking on doors, everybody who ever stood too close gets looked at. And then you got young Miami, who was openly linked to Diddy while all this mess was going on. She was loud about it, posting pics, calling him Poppy, doing interviews. But behind the scenes, rumors started flying that she wasn't just Diddy's girl, she was helping facilitate some of the shady behavior. One story that came up involved a woman saying her drink was allegedly spiked by Diddy, and that young Miami was the one pressuring her to make it go away, to cover it up, to handle it quietly. That ain't girlfriend duties, that's cleanup crew behavior. So now folks looking at young Miami sideways. Was she just in love? Or was she getting paid to keep the machine running smooth? Because when the details came out, when the vibe got dark, she didn't speak up. She just kept posting selfies and promoting brand deals. And the way that plays in the public eye, it don't scream innocence. It screams compliance.
You good? Dada never did nothing to anybody, right? Mama never did nothing to me. Dada never did nothing to mama, right? Everything is safe?
You know what? Stop. Stop. Bye. Stop. Come out.
Now let's talk about another name that keeps slipping through the cracks, but always manages to stay near the fire, French Montana. At first, he seemed like a neutral party, a rapper who pops up, drops a few hits, and moves on. But look closer and you'll see French's name keep resurfacing in connection with Diddy, not just musically, but in weird off-the-record ways. Remember, French and Diddy were tight, videos, vacations, studio nights. But now with all this mess, French real quiet, too quiet, and that silence got folks digging. There's that one video that resurfaced of French and Diddy in the studio talking about changing someone's life tonight. On camera, it came off like some slick industry talk. But now, in context, it sounds creepy, like they weren't talking about signing artists. They were talking about breaking people in, grooming, initiating, and if you read the room, French didn't look confused. He looked like he'd been there before, comfortable, familiar. Like he knew exactly what was being said and didn't flinch. And French ain't new to controversy. Over the years, he's been in messy relationships, club fights, and shady business deals. But when people started whispering about him being present at some of Diddy's infamous parties, he never addressed it, never denied it, never said, "I wasn't there." Instead, he just pivoted, pushed product, promoted music. Same playbook we've seen from all the other folks trying to distance themselves without being obvious. But in Dwim, that strategy ain't working no more. Fans want truth. And the fact that he's staying quiet just makes folks believe he got something to hide. And you know who else's name got thrown back into this crazy mix? LeBron James. Yeah, even the king ain't immune from speculation now. Now let's be real. LeBron ain't never been accused of no crime. His image clean, family man, business mogul. But the internet got a long memory, and folks dug up an old interview clip where he joked about how wild Diddy's parties used to be. Back then it seemed harmless, just bros reminiscing. But now, with everything we've learned, that clip hits different. He was laughing, talking about how he had to leave the party early because it got too crazy. And everybody chuckled. But now folks asking, what exactly did LeBron see that made him dip out? What was going on in that party that had one of the most composed athletes on earth say, "I'm good," and leave? You gotta ask, did LeBron see something he ain't want to be around? And if so, why ain't he said a word since? Maybe he really didn't know the full picture. Or maybe he knew enough to walk away and keep walking. But either way, he was there. And in this type of situation, proximity matters. And that's the running theme with all these celebrities, proximity. They might not have done anything, they might not have hurt anybody, but they were close enough to see it, to hear it, to feel the energy shift. And when the walls started closing in on Diddy, not one of them stepped up and said, "Yo, I was there. I saw something. I'm ready to help." Not one, hey? They all went into hiding, deleted pics, stopped posting, got real strategic with their PR. That's not what innocent people do. That's what people who are trying to keep their names out the mess do, and that's why the public turning. That's why fans ain't letting it go, because it ain't just about Diddy no more. It's about everybody who helped him stay in power. Everybody who watched the madness and said nothing. Everybody who used their fame to cover for a man who was clearly on a power trip that had nothing to do with music and everything to do with control, access, and silence. So now, with more lawsuits dropping, more victims coming forward, and the feds literally raiding mansions, the question becomes, how many more names are tied to this? How many more celebs got dirty hands? How many more innocent partygoers were actually just keeping their mouths shut to protect careers, brand deals, and image? Because when this kind of storm hits the culture, ain't nobody safe, especially not the ones who stood closest to the fire and acted like they couldn't smell smoke. So now we hear, after all the whispers, leaks, interviews, and rumors, it's time to ask the question nobody in the industry wants to face. How deep does this thing go? Because if Diddy was the puppet master, who were the puppets? Who stood by while people got hurt, lives got flipped, and silence got bought? We're not just talking about one man's sins here. We're talking about a whole web of enablers, gatekeepers, and friends who let it ride because they didn't want their check to stop. And if you've been paying attention, you already know it ain't just Diddy under pressure. There's a whole roster of folks that need to be questioned. Let's be real. Hollywood don't move unless everybody plays their part, and a lot of these celebs been playing their parts for too long. They show up to the same parties, share the same PR teams, sign to the same labels, fly on the same jets, and when things go left, they pull the same moves, go quiet, lawyer up, start posting family content to distract the fans. But the truth always finds its way through. And now it's kicking in the front door. Some of these folks had direct ties to abuse, and others were just close enough to feel the vibration. But that's the thing, when the room gets too dark, you can't keep pretending you ain't see the switch flip. The stories ain't coming from tabloids anymore. They coming from people who were there. From security guards, assistants, ex-girlfriends, producers, makeup artists. And the names being dropped, they're not just nobodies, they're household names, cultural icons, and people we looked up to. And that's what hurts the most. This whole Diddy fallout exposed something deeper. It showed us that there's levels to this cover-up game. You got folks like Ray J and J. Rule trying to play innocent, like they just stumbled into wild parties and didn't know what was going on. You got people like Stevie J, who was around for decades and still talking like he ain't never seen nothing. You got Young Miami, who went from spotlight girlfriend to suspicious silence the second the heat turned up. And now you got names like Ashton Kutcher and LeBron James getting re-examined. Not because they've been charged, but because they were too close to the epicenter to act clueless. But here's the wildest part. Some of these people probably thought they'd never get exposed. They thought the machine would protect them. That being famous meant they were untouchable. But the internet changed all that. Once people started connecting dots, digging up old clips, bringing back receipts from years ago, the whole story shifted. And it ain't about cancel culture, it's about accountability. You can't stand next to evil and walk away like it didn't rub off on you. Let's also talk about what this means for the next generation of artists and fans. Kids been looking up to these celebrities like Gun, chasing fame, wanting the lifestyle, but now they see what really comes with it. The dark side, the hush-hush rooms, the fake smiles, the contracts that cost more than just percentages. They cost your peace, your morals, sometimes even your soul. And the celebs who knew better, they said nothing. Let the young ones walk into the trap blind. That's why this ain't just scandal, it's betrayal. And don't think this stops here. If one domino falls, the rest's gonna tumble too. This Diddy situation might be the first big name to get hit, but best believe others are sweating right now, scrubbing their social media, canceling appearances, ditching old friends. And while the public keeps watching the headlines, investigators are watching movements, checking flight logs, reading old contracts, listening to the people who've been quiet for too long, and eventually the whole deck might come crashing down. What comes next? Probably more lawsuits, more court docs, more I had no idea interviews from celebrities we've seen in those same rooms for years. But this time, the audience is smarter, hungrier for truth, not falling for the PR playbook. They've seen the patterns. They know who's dodging questions and who's telling the real. And when all the masks come off, we gon' see who really cared about the culture and who was just using it to hide in plain sight. So do all the celebs out here scrambling, hoping the light don't shine on them next? It's too late. The questions are already being asked. The timeline's already screenshot. The tape's already backed up. You can't unknow what we've seen. And the truth, it's coming, whether you're ready or not.